Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Papp and I am here today with my friend and mentor Abigail Steidley. And thank you so much for being here, Abigail. I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here, Sarah. Can't wait.
So for those of you who are not familiar with Abigail's work, she is a master mind-body coach. She works with Martha Beck and is one of the best in her field, I believe. And Abigail has long helped clients with pain and stress relief. More recently, her work has involved a mix of coaching as well as energy work. And she works with coaches and healers, therapists, acupuncturists, massage therapists, and all helping them with their own well-being, owning their healerness, and stepping into their soul mission. And I know Abigail from being one of my instructors, and I have learned many of the mind-body tools that I use with my clients today from her, and they are amazing and powerful tools. So I want to talk with you about the mind-body connection today and how people who are not familiar with the mind-body approach, as well as people who are familiar with it, can use these tools to feel better in their lives. So I think that a lot of people are in a place in their lives where they might be on autopilot and they might be feeling a lot of stress and a state of racing and hurry and get from one place to another, and that the stress accumulates in our bodies and that we end up feeling it in various ways, from a lot of chronic pain to other illnesses. But if you could start out by telling us, how have you seen it in not only yourself, because you have your own story of how you got to this place, but with your clients, of how does stress accumulate in the body and then communicate to us?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sarah. And for me, it's been a pretty big journey. I did have my own long chronic pain story that I went through in my early 20s, and that was when I first started studying mind-body healing because I couldn't find any answers. So kept trying different treatments and nothing would work. It was a pelvic pain syndrome, a couple of them. And so I started diving into it and learning about it. And really, if we just kind of cut to the chase and start at the very heart of the matter, what I discovered was it's all about how you define the word stress. And now I define stress as when I am not allowing myself to feel emotion and am actually resisting it and trying to just make it through situations, or just push forward, or we have all these phrases for it in the English language, like carry on, just do it anyway, all that stuff. And stress is actually the result of fighting with yourself in that way, instead of just allowing yourself to feel exactly as you feel. Let that emotion happen in the body, and then from there move on into some kind of action. So I was a long time habitual emotion suppressor, and so I would just, my thought or my phrase was always, I'm fine, I'm totally fine. Even though I was internally combusting or something, and I would just completely ignore what I felt, and to the point where I really didn't even know that I was doing that. So I had a mind-body colleague one time who said it's like learning to tie your shoes. You just suppress your emotion without even thinking about it. Like, once you've figured it out, you just do it like you would tie your shoes. It's so easy to suppress them, which really resonates with me because it becomes unconscious, in other words. And so going through the process of realizing when I feel stress, it means I need to feel, and then looking at, well, okay, is there anything here that I am trying not to feel, or anything that I kind of think I might be feeling, and just starting with those baby steps. And I went through that process and then started to be able to recognize what I was feeling and allow it and experience it, instead of fighting against it so much. And it started to relieve that stress. So I would not be in that place of resistance and fighting against myself all the time. Because when you do that, and I speak from deep experience, it causes the fight or flight response to kick on in the body, and also lots of tension. Lots of clutching muscles get tight. You don't breathe deeply anymore. There's all kinds of physical responses that happen when you're resisting feeling emotion. So that was what I learned for myself, and then I started to release the stress and allow myself to have emotions and process those, and then my pain went away. So I could tell I was on the right track. So
wow.
Yeah, I started to just play with that a little more in the coaching realm, and started to coach other people, and it turned out to be really, really powerful. And I have lots of resources that I had studied for myself that I just kind of compiled elements of all of those and created some basic tools for people who were feeling confused about how to unwind their own mind-body discomfort. So that's kind of the long and short of it in one pump.
What about for people who may even be thinking, I recognize that I'm stressed like when I'm at 10, rather than if there were a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being like my kettle is fully blowing up, and I don't recognize it until I get to 10. Do you have any recommendations for how people can recognize the beginning emotions that are occurring, or the beginnings of stress, or something before it's at that really high strung state?
Yeah, it's definitely about developing awareness of the body. Because when you are trying not to feel emotion, or when you're trying to just make it through something, or just suck it up and all of that, you have to disconnect awareness from yourself and the body. And you have to separate that out mentally. And we have so many great ways of doing that. I used to just read a lot of fiction all the time and try not to think about my life, or watch TV or eat, or all those different ways of kind of ignoring myself that I found. And so what I had to learn to do was actually pay attention to the signals my body was giving, because it's giving signals like way in advance of the 10. It starts giving signals right here at the very beginning, but I would not hear those. And so I would be at 10 stress-wise, or I would be at more plus 10 physical pain, way over here. So I had to learn to tune into the really subtle signals that my body is sending, like some mild tension in the shoulders, or maybe my jaw is a little clenched, or maybe my breath was like I was holding my breath, for example, or just a feeling of I'm not comfortable, that my body's a little it's not settled, it's not relaxed, it's not open. And so I just started doing, when I was trying to figure that all out, I just started setting a timer, and I would do 3 or 4 times a day. The timer would go off, and I would do a specific check-in with specific parts of myself. So I would check with my pelvic muscles, because I was having pelvic pain at the time. So I would do pelvic muscle check-in, and I'd realize my pelvic muscles were really clenched. And it was a huge revelation, because before that I didn't even know I had pelvic muscles. So I was oh, you have muscles there? I didn't even know. And then I was oh, they're tense all the time. Crazy. I had no idea. So then I would slowly develop that awareness of what's going on in my body. And that message was very clear once I actually paid attention, but I would not have known that without consciously deciding to focus on my body. So does that make sense?
Yeah. So when the timer goes off, of just going inside your body and then scanning your attention to see what's going on. Is anything tense? Is anything painful? And then if you do notice something that is really tense or painful, and then you move your attention to that space, then would you look for the emotion that you may not be feeling, or what would you do then when you notice that tension?
Yeah, I kind of developed like a really simple way of doing that. So I call it in my work now, I call it just dropping contractions first. So it's like wherever there's a contracted muscle, just consciously noticing that I have the ability to drop that. So if I'm like this, drop that contraction, and wherever it is in the body. So that's the first step, because this part means you're trying to keep stuff out of your conscious awareness, emotional stuff. And the only way we can actually prevent an emotion from being in our awareness is to tighten muscles. So first we do that, and then I just ask, what am I feeling? And it's okay if I don't know. There's really no, like, you don't have to know if it's anger or sadness or fear or whatever. It's more just about the actual question, because that question turns your attention toward the emotional experience. And then if you know, great, and if you don't, great. It's more about just asking and kind of being curious. Do I feel something right now? Is there an emotion present? And if so, just kind of allowing that to exist and being with it. And if not, just asking the question again later, to develop that awareness over time.
And what if I notice that I'm feeling, let's say it's anger a lot, and I recognize that I'm feeling anger, but the idea of allowing that to be, or going inside that, feels really scary. Like, it already feels bad. Why would I want to go to a darker place by going inside? What would you say? How would you invite somebody to move into feeling an emotion like anger in that type of case?
Yeah, I have to grab my notebook, because I have something on that that's kind of cool. I just wrote down yesterday, actually. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she just mentioned this quote, and I don't actually know where she got it, so unfortunately, but it's such a poignant thing for this. And the quote is, "What is in the way is the way." And it's like, whatever is the thing, the block, the scary thing, anger, scary, oh my gosh, this thing I don't want to feel, it's not comfortable, oh no. It's actually, that is the way. That's where you need to go, because on the other side is the freedom that you're looking for. So that's kind of more of an esoteric way of looking at it, but the reality is that emotions, while they are uncomfortable and we don't always want to feel them, they're immensely valuable. And there's, like, I highly recommend the work of Carla McLaren, who wrote The Language of Emotions, because she has done the biggest study I've seen of anybody out there on emotions and how to work with them. And anger specifically, for example, brings you strength, and it brings you the ability to set clear boundaries. It kind of lets you know when you haven't set clear boundaries. And then you're like, I'm so angry. And then you discover, oh, I didn't even communicate clearly what isn't okay with me. And so here is this huge life insight on the other side of that anger. And if I didn't allow myself to feel it, I would never know that. And so it's like a doorway that opens. And at first, when I was feeling emotions, I didn't know about the doorway, so it was very hard. And I would just be like, okay, feel it, just feel it.
Just get me through this.
I can do it. I just have to survive feeling. And then I realized that after I felt emotion, then there was actually this kind of motivational carrot on the other side, that there's huge value in what those emotions are there and how they're serving me. So I always teach my clients the other tool, which is allowing discomfort, and kind of meeting discomfort with a sense of like, okay, I can do discomfort, I've been in discomfort before in my life and I've survived. So therefore, I think I can do this anger thing,
Yeah.
kind
Yeah,
of
you
coming
have
at
the
it without.
capacity. That is, we all have that capacity to feel the emotion regardless of how uncomfortable it may be.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and when you were talking about that of where anger can come from, of areas where we didn't have boundaries or where we didn't have a voice or anything along those lines, it makes me think of how many people I talk to who have carried anger for so long because of areas in their past or in their childhood where they didn't feel like they had a voice or that they didn't feel like they had any boundaries or something that happens and that they carry it with them. And now I can see how much feeling that anger can be the avenue to healing, as you said.
Yeah.
It's healing not only just in what you're experiencing right now with the anger, but the accumulation of that that's still inside you. It'll stay, and saying like, I still want to be felt.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it can be that avenue to getting you to the healing that you're meant to experience.
Totally. And it's a lot of times when we don't want to feel something that's uncomfortable, we want to go away from that. We want to be relieved of it. But when you move away from it, like you just said, nothing changes. So it's still there. And another one of my favorite quotes from the author of The Presence Process, his name is Michael Brown, and he says, "The only way through is through." Which is just like so straightforward. Like you can't be relieved of the anger until you feel the anger. There's just no other way. And once I realized that, once my clients realize that, it's a sense of like, well, might as well, There's no other solution to getting rid of this, so if I go toward it, then I'm truly relieved of it instead of just pushing it down.
And don't you think that there's really this place that's even more uncomfortable to not feel the uncomfortable feelings than really opening your arms to them? And I think people do that a lot with grief too. Where, grief just sucks. It's heavy. And going through it is just a lot physically and moving through that energy.
Yeah.
But resisting it and trying not to go into it, I almost find that it's a different level of uncomfortable that's more uncomfortable than going through it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, then it goes from that to being in pain. So I'm like, no.
Yeah. Your body will communicate to you pretty quickly with pain.
Yep.
And then it's kind of our job to understand how our bodies communicate to us in our unique way. So in Abigail's case, it's that your pelvic muscles may get really tight. But in my case, it may be that my shoulders get really tight or that my stomach gets really tight or that I get headaches or something else.
Exactly. Yep.
So is it doing the body scan and seeing what's going on inside ourselves and seeing the emotion? And is it looking at, so if I have chronic headaches, just to explore, maybe there's information inside there that I should look at rather than thinking that it's just looking at a computer all day long or something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, there's a kind of a wide spectrum of where people are with that and what they're ready to hear. But in my clientele, I bring in the people who are really ready to say, it's not looking at a computer, it's not how I slept on my bed, it's not my pillow, it's not my chair, it's, it is something going on in here. And I love to work with those people because it's like, okay, now we can just dive in and we're going to go for it. And so, yes, that's exactly what it is. It's in the end, like with my pain clients who are dealing with chronic pain, we really don't even talk about their pain because we're talking about what their emotions are and what's coming up from the past and feeling through that and releasing stuff and dealing with things like, are they setting good boundaries, or are they not, or where are they listening to their inner truth, or where are they not? And it goes, straight into that kind of stuff, because that's the heart of the matter.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So if I'm really new to this, and mind-body work is something that I'm somewhat familiar with, but not really, would you recommend just starting with the body scan and then the question? Or is there anything else that you would recommend for somebody who's brand new?
Yeah, I mean, that's I have like a little process I do for people who are brand new, and it is that just checking in with the body, just discovering, oh, I am carrying tension, or where is that, or what's going on in my body during the day. Maybe checking in 3 times a day. You can even just start with that and keep it really simple for like however many weeks you want, until you start to get really familiar with your own body. Then moving into the emotions piece. What am I feeling? What am I feeling? What am I feeling? Just kind of curiously throughout the day. You can either do 3 times a day or more or less. There's no restrictions or requirements. And then just getting more and more comfortable with asking the question because you're curious and you're ready to allow some emotion to show up. And then moving from there into just allowing that to actually happen. So feeling. And then for the most part, those are the 2 biggest steps, I think, to start with. And there's a few other things that I do with clients, like having them notice what their mind is doing too, because a lot of times the mind will be playing a role in the stress. So like taking an emotion and making it a little more intense by saying like, oh, I can't feel this, it's too hard, or oh, I shouldn't have this emotion because that wasn't a big deal, or the mind will throw in lots of thoughts around everything, and so helping them see what their mind is doing. So those are probably the big 3 first steps. And then when people are feeling more comfortable with those, I will throw in a 4th, which is actually really then just tuning into your inner wisdom to see what it's trying to tell you. So you kind of clear the way by connecting to the body and releasing emotion and noticing the mind. And then you can start hearing the guidance that's trying to come through from your own inner wisdom. And to me, that's actually like the reason that our bodies speak loudly when we're not tuned into them, because the body's like, hey, you can't hear this important inner wisdom, and you can't guide yourself through your life the way you want to because you're not hearing this important stuff. So pain.
Yeah, pay attention to me. Yeah, come back inside your body, please.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I think that so many of us walk through our days with spending all of our time up here. I recently rewatched Sir Ken Robinson's TEDx or TED Talk, and he said that professors, he used to be a college professor, and that he believes that most of them see their body as a vehicle just to move their mind around, go from this place to the next place. And I laughed hysterically because I think that so many people see it that way, of like, the purpose of my body is to move my brain from here to there, get me to my desk so that I can work. Yeah, but it's really the messenger of our soul speaking to us.
Yeah.
Of telling us what's working and what's not working.
Totally. 100%.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I do just to make it easy for myself, I mostly developed this for myself because I just have been super busy having a baby and learning how to be a mom and all that. And I thought, I need an easy way to remember this in my daily life for me. And then it ends up being kind of helpful for clients too.
Yeah.
But to kind of drill it down to one core thing, like, why do I get out of sync with my inner wisdom? And generally, it's because I am beating myself up or putting some kind of judgment on myself in some way. So with that kind of core piece of information, then I can say, okay, so my focus is kindness toward myself. And once I remember that that's my overall goal, because that's the thing that unlocks every piece of the step. If I am kind to myself, then I'm allowing myself to feel, I'm noticing what I'm thinking, but I'm not torturing myself over it. I'm connecting back to my body. I'm listening to what my soul or my inner wisdom is saying, and I'm taking action on what my needs are, what I truly need to say, how I need to express myself or set boundaries. So that kindness is really like the whole core way to look at it in kind of an easy way. And so then I just think of it as the kind process. So know your body, inhabit your emotions, and then notice your mind and discover your inner wisdom. So it makes it easy to remember. Kind.
Yeah. Oh, that's dead on. And I think noticing the judgment is so spot on. Just like how you said, how we'll say, I shouldn't be feeling this way, is a judgment of what's going on and then trying to resist it. And I've noticed that in myself, of sometimes feeling something and being like, it wasn't that big of a deal, I don't need to be feeling this way. But then moving out of that and taking the judgment out of it, allowing myself to feel what I'm honestly feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that place of just allowing without judgment feels so kind. It feels so kind to give myself that space. Because I think that a lot of people will feel like, I'm just feeling frustrated, but it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's so key, to let go of the judgment.
Yeah, and there's a thing I've noticed too, like if people, especially people who are really like healers, like I work mostly with healer types, like you said at the beginning, and it's like this thing, like I shouldn't think bad stuff because that's bad. So like if there's a thought that flits through the mind, even like judging ourselves around that. And as I became a mother, I started to realize that I would have thoughts like, I am so frustrated, I don't even want to be a mom right now, something like that, like would flit through my mind, and then I'd be like, oh no, don't think that, that's so terrible. But the reality is it's just a thought, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really mean I don't want to be a mom in entirety. It just means like in this moment I've had it.
Yeah.
I would rather just not have this moment. Like so the thought is an expression of a voice inside me that needs to be allowed to be heard, and it doesn't have to mean anything about me or about what my choices are when I take action, next. It doesn't mean I'm going to make some giant drastic life change in this instant. It's just a voice in the head, and just letting myself not judge myself about the thoughts too was really nice, because it started to feel like, well, of course I'm going to have thoughts, and there's going to be negative thoughts that float through, and it's just the same as emotions. So applying that kindness to all of the things that are showing up.
Both thoughts and emotions. It's having non-judgment for them and seeing them both as really innocent. That the thoughts in the mind, they're just happening. They're just occurring. I've said that it's kind of like they're falling through your mind like raindrops fall from the sky. It just happens. And then your emotions being innocent in the way that they're there to help take you to a path of healing. So both of these things that can come up and can feel really uncomfortable, because gosh, do I ever know like how a busy mind can feel really uncomfortable, or certain thoughts, that I wish I wasn't thinking, and create that resistance. So thoughts and emotions that may feel uncomfortable, and recognizing them as innocent and not having judgment for them, and then going to that place of kindness. That just, in that process, I feel like even just talking about it, that my body is like,
I know.
You
It's such
know?
a relaxing. Oh, the
Just,
pressure's off.
yeah, pressure's off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you are whatever situation that you're in and you're feeling really frustrated, it's okay to feel frustrated regardless of the situation that it is. I think that some people that I've talked to are afraid that if they feel frustrated, that they're only going to then feel more frustrated, that it's going to just build and build and build.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that it's allowing it to happen is what can actually allow it to release and move through you.
Exactly. It's such a paradox, and it's like I've been thinking about this all this week for some reason. It's so funny how that works, but it is as soon as you resist something, then it persists, and just like the saying. But as you begin to allow it, which sounds so counterintuitive and scary to people at first, but when you do allow things to happen inside of your body, inside of your psyche, then it opens the door and then it's able to move and release. And so it's always like move toward it, whatever it is, and let it exist, allow it to exist.
You know, and here's the other thing I was thinking about is that I think when we were talking about anger, how a lot of people may think, well, I am feeling angry. I notice myself yelling or getting angry or whatever it may be. I'm feeling angry. But then as I think about it, there can be a difference from your outward expression of emotion versus what it is to actually go inside and feel that anger.
Yep.
And that when you actually go inside and locate the anger inside your body and really, really feel it, it can look totally different from yelling and screaming or whatever it may be. That it may end up really looking like tears or really looking like relief or whatever it is when you go inside and feel it. And I think that you can get to that again by going to a place of non-judgment and openness to honestly feel the emotion.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, I do get like people ask me like, well, okay, so I express my emotions. Why am I still having pain?
Yeah.
And expressing them verbally and externally doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't mean that you've actually felt it inside yourself. And it may not even be you connecting to that emotion. It might be you just saying thoughts that are kind of around it. Like it's not the direct experience of the emotion. And so bringing it inward into what does it feel like in my body right now as I feel this emotion, then it's a personal and private experience. And it also it's a relief because a lot of people worry, like, if I do feel anger, then, well, maybe I'll harm somebody. And this is about, like, just being inside you and allowing yourself to feel that in your own self. And then whatever that experience is, from there, then you kind of know more clearly how you do want to express yourself to other people. But the first step is just for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's also kind of a kindness. It's like, oh, I get to have that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That it's a difference between the concept of the emotion and I understand that there's anger inside me versus really going inside.
Yeah, like anger is especially a pretty easy one to demonstrate that because, like, say you're feeling angry at somebody and you're like, well, he's a jerk. He just did this and he said that and it was just no fun and I really can't stand him. You know, that kind of expression or, you know, you made me so angry because you were doing this and you weren't doing that and we should have had this and, you know, all of that is just language and none of it is direct experience of the actual anger.
Yeah.
So a lot of non-constructive language happens, which isn't, I mean, it's totally lovely to express that in your own space, but when we feel the emotion inside ourselves, you have to kind of go inward, and then what you express, like, later on to somebody may be really surprising to yourself, might be something you wouldn't have realized. that you needed to say, because it's kind of down in the deeper wisdom.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I love this conversation. I love this topic. So thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to talk with me about this. For those of you who are interested in learning more about Abigail, you can take a look at her website, which is abigailsteidley.com. And you're also starting a kindness community. We talked a lot about kindness today. So if you're interested in checking out her kindness community and being a part of that, you can find information about that on her website as well. So thank you so much, Abigail. This was so much fun.
Thank you, Sarah. It was great. Thank you.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.